Happy Sabbath. I hope you're all doing good. So before we start with the Q&A for today, we are going to start with a word of prayer. Praying. Our kind and loving God, we give thanks and praise unto your name. We come to you this morning and asking that please may you guide and lead us. And this God, as we are going to be having this Q&A, may you please answer the questions that your people may be having. And Lord, may you give the speaker the understanding as well. And Lord, may we be able to come to walk together. I pray that this God, may you strengthen us now and lead us in Jesus' most beautiful name. Thank you, God. Amen. Greetings, everybody. I hope you're all doing good. So there's 9 of us. So at least I hope that we are going to be all participating and with also all the that will be asked, they will not. Yeah, so and us to be able to put it within this context, actually, as we will be moving along the Q&A. Remembering all the lessons that we have done, the lessons that were done by this the summary of all the presentations that she has done. And then it was actually advised that we go through them again. And okay, so interpreter, because of what I said, is network as well, it's not that stable. So yeah, it's within that context of look, we have been going through the lessons that were done by Elder Tess. We are repeating those lessons that were done by Elder Tess. And these presentations are actually from the 16th of May, 2020, moving down to April to July of 2021. So there are a lot of studies, and they are very I think very much important, because of they show us how we have transitioned from one way of thinking to another way of thinking, actually. So we are going to have those this Q&A, and to bear just in mind actually where we are in our understanding as well, that we have moved from the and as can everybody see the board, we have actually moved from the right wing to the left wing. And what has made us to shift from the right wing to the left wing? How actually was our thinking while we were still under this right wing thinking, you see? So actually these lessons, when I look at them, they moving Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The right wing. So you see that. So we were moving from the right wing. Adrian.
Hi, Tato. I think your network is so low because you keep on breaking.
Okay, so please may my backup be ready for if it just cuts and then she can just quickly she can just jump in. So andazi undiva kakuhle ngoku?
Yes, for now you're okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So that's the thing. Ogochi, we have moved from the right wing to the left wing. And we were within this government of before, and then now we are required to move to the left wing. If I can put it in this way, when we look at we look at any theme of that we are actually discussing, right? So when you look at all anything, we need to ask ourselves, what does this theme actually has to do with the subject of the great controversy? So I put down here the line of Eden to Eden, so the line of restoration. So we need to ask ourselves, okay, what does all these themes that we have done, what do they have to do with the great controversy? You see? And we need to see how actually even the subject that is under consideration, which is to do with gender, what does it have to do with what? With the great controversy? And how is God actually teaching us within the movement and those who are outside the movement about this subject of the great controversy of gender in the context of the great controversy. So when you look at anything, we need to be able to connect the theme back to where? To the great controversy. The controversy, it's between whom? It's between God and Satan. And now we need to see to look at or how does this subject then, how does this theme actually connect us back to the great controversy and see how actually things have unfolded and how people were actually voting in that within that subject, so or within that theme. And the other thing is that how does when we look at the issue of the Sunday law or the waymark that we are actually heading to, because we need to be able to also connect ourselves to, we need to connect ourselves back to where we are. So we are currently here as a people, and where are we looking? We are heading to the Sunday law. So we have things that are actually taking place currently that are actually pointing us where? To the following waymark. And all that has been laid. We have walked through the stepping stones of this waymark, of the build-ups to the Sunday law. So just in quick review, up here we have the line of the 144,000. And we have the line of the priest, we have the line of the Levite, we have the line of the Nathaniels, right? So as the 144,000, we are here when you look at the line of the 144,000, because we are no longer where? In the line of the priest. So we are actually here heading where? To the Sunday law. We have had our increase of knowledge on the subject of the time. And we have had our what? Our formalization of the message. What are we actually currently under? We would mark this time as the time period leading to the decision, or for example, when you think within the school setting, you will be writing a test for an hour, and then when you get to that hour expiry, this is where actually your exam paper will be taken away from you. You see, so you are in that time period where you are actually busy with your test. If you are going to look at how within the school setting, actually when you are writing tests, how actually that 2.5 hours you have been given for you to be able to complete the exam paper. So you will start at 9 o'clock. This is the lesson starting at 9 o'clock. And then at half 11, this is where your paper is going to be taken away. Because of the test, it's gonna take 2.5 hours. So we are currently walking through that time period where we are actually having we have the test, we are actually writing the test. Does that make sense? Or have I lost anybody? Hello? Can you still hear me, Twin?
We can hear you well.
Yes, Thato. We are following.
Okay. Okay, so this is where we are heading to the Sunday law, and we have come out the line of the priest. We are now, when you look at the line of not speaking much about the line of the Levites and the line of the Nathaniels, but then when you look at the line of the Levites, they are within their harvesting period. And when you look at the line of the Nathaniels, they are actually in the time period between their lateral experience. You see that? So yeah, with that in mind, I think we can is there any question? Okay, so as you're thinking of those questions, when now we look at the studies that we have been doing, we are looking them within the we can see that actually it was with us. This were actually here. We were here by the time the studies were done, and we were just and actually they were taking place just before the increase of knowledge of the it was actually happening just before that. So we can be able to see that what actually was taking place. We were where? We were in our harvesting stage as priests. And what was happening, it was that we were in Jacob's time of trouble, and people they were shaking that just happened in the previous dispensation, and there was a shaking that was taking place as well within this harvesting period, as people were actually contesting for the government they actually want or they were choosing. You see, so it's either they were going to choose for God's government or they were going to reject God's government. As we see in this past dispensation, people were rejecting or accepting God's government, choosing the opposite government, which is the government of Satan. So that's, if we can have this broad view and be able to see the picture of how God has led us, and be able to see how where we are and how much we have moved from the way we used to think, and be able to see even how some are still attached to the condition, the Laodicean condition, because of not moving away from how we used to think and how we are actually required to progress and to be where we are. So at this point, I think I've given a summarized version of the direction and where the context of even the lessons and where we are. So any questions? Yeah, it's not a lesson, it's a Q&A. There are a lot of things that we can talk about though, but this one, it's for Q&A. So any questions?
Hi, Thato.
Hi, Twin.
So, especially after the lesson that we had last week, I was left wondering. So just to give a context now. So when we talk about the Sunday laws, we know, or we say that they are escalating. So beginning 2014, the Sunday law of the priest, we have Benon, Stephen Miller Jefferson working together with Mitch McConnell, and they already understand that there's a culture war, and the fight for culture begins, and it escalates 2019, 2021 until the Sunday law, isn't so? It's the escalating Sunday law, and even the scope and the culture, everyone ends up taking side, but it just began with some 3 individuals that were marking prophetical. So the Sunday laws are escalating, eh? So when it comes to the period of harvest, for the priest, it was in the dispensation of 2019 to 2021. And one of the characteristics is that there is no rain during the period of harvest. So my wondering isn't that there was no rain in the sense of that there was no new message, but we were revising, and every we have camp meetings, and elder tales will make new applications here and there. We had the EPIS bull, But comparing with the previous dispensation, there was really no rain. It was just like small drops here and there. And then moving on to the current dispensation that you are in, it's the harvest for the Levites. But our experience of having no rain compared to the previous dispensation, it's dry when you compare the two. What I'm trying to say. So my question is that, can we compare the two, or can we use the same principle in the in the harvest period, that it escalates until we get to the harvest, which is like between the dispensation of close of probation? Can we do that? That it also, or the hardship or the no rain part of it, does it also escalate, or that principle only applies to Sunday law? I mean, I'm sure you get my question.
So if you were to summarize your question in a short sentence, how would you summarize it?
Okay, basically, I'm asking if everything, not just Sunday law, if everything escalates, ne? So we understand Sunday law because we've always learned that. But I had not learned, or at least understood, that everything else, whether it's the close of probation or it's the dispensations, do they also escalate? That's my question. So looking at the period of our harvest, the pre-harvest, 2019 to 2021, the experience that we had, the harvest, the hardship, the no rain part of it, and then moving on to where we are now, the period, the harvest for the Levites. Like, when I'm comparing with my own experience, so far I would say that it's escalating in a way, when I look at the no rain thing. And then, so I'm just wondering that, then in the next dispensation, could it be that, because the Levites are being ministered unto by the medias, the lesson that Eda Paminda said, that, the true streams of information are the prophets for the Nethanims. So when we get to that dispensation and they're supposed to go through the phase of no rain, does it mean that now those true streams of media also are quiet? And for us, the experience will be then, it continues getting worse in terms of, having no rain or something like that. That's my question, Tab.
Thank you so much, Twin. Yeah, your question is quite broad, very, very broad. So there are many factors to the question that you have asked. There are many factors to it. So, did everybody get Twin's question?
We're trying to get it.
Yeah, it's quite deep.
Hello, we have not got what she's really asking. It is not clear for me.
Okay, let me summarize it in this way, if I heard her well, is that she pointed out this history between 2014 to 2019 as the latter rain experience of the priest, and then seeing how actually you have three people, if we can just say that. You have the Tea Party movement starting in 2014. You have Steve Bannon, Jeff Sessions, and Steve Miller being the ones that are actually making things to escalate. I think if I can put like that, making things to actually escalate in the way they are actually, if I can put it like this, they are taking people from there who are actually centrist part of the Republican Party. So they are actually purging the Republican Party, and they are actually removing those people who are actually centrist. And they want people who are going to be aligned with them in the mindset of the far right. So when you look at how actually yeah, and now the other thing she asked is that when you look at this time period here from 2019 to 2021, we see that there's no rain, but there is so much information that is actually taking place here. And now when you have to compare it with this dispensation over here, there's not much rain that is actually happening. But here you have time of trouble, you have so many things that are actually taking place. Because Elder Tess, in the lesson that she was actually doing, I think it's the one that we were busy with last week, she points out that in this time period of 2019 to 2021, there is no new message. And it actually describes how Christ is in the world. It's in the wilderness, and he's being tempted by Satan. And we can see there, Christ did not have food. There was no food for him to eat, and that's one of the characteristics that we mark in this time period. So yeah, heading to the escalation of the Sunday law. So that's why her question it's more about how can we if we can just maybe give more clarity with it, why are we saying there's no rain in this time period here, where else we have so much information that is actually taking place in this dispensation between 2019 and 2021. So I hope you can hear me. I hope the rain is not disturbing.
No, Thato, that's not what I'm asking. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so I was just using the principles of the Sunday laws to then compare with the harvest period, no rain part of it. So the principle of Sunday laws is that they are escalating. Ne? Okay. So my question is that when we look at whether like the period of harvest, do they also escalate in terms of the experience? So for an example, one of the characteristics is that there is no rain. Yeah? So is the no rain part of it escalating as well? So that's how I was comparing with the harvest period of the priest, that we had no rain, we went through the experience. Now we're in the other harvest of the Levites. So is it escalating, just like the nature of the Sunday laws, that they keep on widening, the scope is widening, and the events keep on escalating? So I'm asking that, is there no rain part of it also escalating? The period of our priests, we went through the experience. Like for now, as I'm comparing the two harvests, they are different, you know, there are differences that you can mark, and
Which,
it seems
which
now like
two
they.
harvest?
Huh?
This harvest and this harvest.
Yes, isn't
Is
that
those the
one
two
the
harvests
harvest of the
compared?
Levites?
This one?
Yes. And then, so then the next dispensation will be the harvest of the Nethinims. So I'm asking that the no rain part of the harvest, is it also escalating? The Nethinims are being ministered to by the medias. So if there's no rain for the Nethinims, then it means maybe media-wise, you know, there'll be no message, or there'll be no something like that. I don't know. But so my question is the harvest period also escalating, or that principle only applies to Sunday law?
So if the escalation that is taking place, does it only apply to the Sunday law? Did you get the question, Dee?
I'm trying to get it. I was suggesting that we go back to the agriculture model first and understand the purpose of the rain and the purpose of the harvest, so that we can now take it to the line and extract what it means. Because I feel like the escalation of the Sunday law and the escalation of the harvest are not necessarily the same thing. Rain is rain, harvest is harvest. And definitely in every dispensation, there is an escalation of whatever the event is supposed to be. But we shouldn't mix them. So if we go back to the agriculture model, you have the plowing. It has the purpose of preparing the ground for the plant that is going, the seed that's going to be planted. And then when the early rain comes, the purpose of the early rain is to allow the seed to germinate. And then the seed goes through an escalation of growth. Even going back to the plowing phase, the plowing is also an escalation. You start with one line and you go back and forth until the whole field is done. That is also an escalation. But that escalation is not the same as the escalation of when the seed is planted and then it starts growing. So there is escalation, but this time it's for a different purpose. It's to get the plant to grow from the seed stage to the maturity stage. Then in the latter rain, you have the rain coming to now ripen the plant, and that is what the purpose of the latter rain is. It is to ripen the plant that was growing in the previous dispensation from the seed phase. So now when you get to the harvest time, the purpose of the harvest is not to mature a plant, it is to harvest it because it's now ready. And it's also a process of escalation. So I think if you're going to look at rain and how rain is supposed to fall and what its purpose is, it cannot be the same as the escalation that's happening in the harvest, because in the harvest, that's a different process as well. So what we need to do, I think, is to define what the rain looks like for the priests, for the Levites, for the Nethinims in the latter rain dispensation, and then describe what the harvest looks like for all the classes of people, so that we don't get ourselves confused about what we should be looking for. But the principle is that in every dispensation, when something starts, it will escalate, definitely. What we need to define now is what that thing looks like. Already, we are discovering that our understanding of how the Levites were supposed to be gathered, they're supposed to be, what the latter rain is supposed to look like, and how they're supposed to be harvested, is different. It's the reality is different from what we anticipated. So that's the other principle I want to introduce, is that we and it's the reason why we study about parables and the information systems and all of that, understanding that there's a way in which we view things, and there's a way in which things actually end up unfolding. And what, for me personally, what I've realized is that our preconceived ideas of what something is supposed to look like, they tend to block our understanding. When now the Lord comes and he's doing his work, we tend to miss it. We tend to have difficulty recognizing it because we already have in our minds a picture of how it's supposed to happen. So when it doesn't happen in that way, we get thrown off. So what really needs to happen though is, for us, we understand the principle of the agriculture model. It teaches us that there is 4 dispensations and that there is escalation in every dispensation. So certainly there was escalation in our harvest as priests, there was escalation in the harvest of the Levites, and there will be escalation in the harvest of the Nethinim. We just need to make sure that we are seeing what God is showing us and not looking to see what we want to see, because then we end up being thrown off. Like we were thrown off by the Levites. We thought that the harvest of the Levites was going to look like we are going to go to the Adventist church and we're going to evangelize and we're going to bring them out in huge droves and numbers, and we are realizing no, it actually isn't like that. But that's not to say now God is not harvesting the Levites. That's not what we are saying. What we need to do is open our minds so that when God shows us, we can see. So in trying to answer the question, I'm just saying that the escalation is there. It's just not looking the way that we are anticipating because we are already thinking in a certain way. But certainly the principle of the agriculture model is telling us that there is escalation, definitely. And rain does not look like harvest. It's different processes. They serve different purposes. But all of it eventually is to grow a plant, to prepare a field, grow it, plant the seed, allow the seed to grow, and then get to the point of ripening the grain, and then the harvest. So if we apply that principle to all the lines, and we have confidence in God that the way that he started to lead us in 1989 was to actually bring us to the end of the world, then let us be more open to what God is going to show us rather than what we think is going to look like. But I was not trying to answer the question. I was just trying to say that maybe in our minds, the way it's supposed to happen is actually not the way the Lord is opening it up, because we have our own preconceived ideas of what we want to see. And then we end up becoming confused because we are not seeing what we want to see. So we should see what God wants to show us. So in an attempt to answer the question, rain, the reign of the Nethinims and the Levites, they are not being evangelized by us, they are being evangelized by the external priest, prophets. And it's not like there is going to be a scarcity of news or whatever in terms of how they are being prepared, because in the harvest, you don't have rain. Rain is for ripening the grain. So with rain, we expect a lot of information, blah blah blah, but it brings you to the Sunday law, because the Sunday law now is the test. So when the test comes, you either pass or fail. That is not the time to start studying. If you're a student preparing for a test, you don't study. You can study last minute, but when the test comes, when you're sitting down and writing the exam, that's not when you are trying to fill your mind with knowledge. That is when you're revealing what's in you. So that's the purpose of the harvest. The harvest is to reveal what's in, what has been received previously. And now the test is coming to demonstrate whether the information was received. Again, yeah, that's my attempt to help with the discussion.
Thank you, Dee. Just to also attempt to point this out. So if you look at where we are we today? We are in the early rain experience as the 144,000, right? Remember that we had two parts to act. We were the priest, we were the Levites. So now we were the priest and we were the 144,000. So now the line of the priest is finished, and we are left with the line of the 144,000, right? So where are we as the 144,000? The experience that we are still under. We are still under our early rain experience. And where are we heading to? We just passed the formalization of the message, heading but you can be able to see, when I started, I pointed out that this is the time period of the test. When you get here, this is when you go to Daniel chapter 11, verse 41, where it's actually speaking about the overthrowing. Where does the overthrowing take place? We marked, or it was marked, that actually this is the time period of the overthrowing, like the testing time period. The test does not begin here, but it begins here. So we are in that time period. So we look at where we are as a people, and when you look at where we are, we can be able to see that actually this time period, it's not the same time period that which we were in, right? So where we were by the time these lessons were done, we were in this time period. I would point us back to here. We were in this time period of Ellen White stream that was done by Shamiso of 2019 and 2021. And when you look at the characteristics of this dispensation and what actually we were required to do, because our path has come to an end in 2019. So our only hope was to what? To hold on to the cords. And these are the cords were the only ones that are going to help us to swing across. You see, so in simple terms, we were to fully trust in the methodology that God has given us, which is line upon line. And we can see truly that that's the only hope. And when you come to these people, like these people, that's the only thing that they need to hold on to the methodology and the message of the midnight cry message was going to help them to swing over, because the methodology gave us the midnight cry message. So for you to trust in the midnight cry, that it has been God who has led us this far. He can surely bring us across. The only hope is to trust that He who gave these codes and the messages that God has given us, they are actually what? They are actually true. And that's our only hope, to rely on those codes. There was no what? There was no earthly support. And when it looks different in a way when it comes to the Levites, because of they are not within the movement. But their only hope, it's whatever they have been learning when it comes, they're actually deciding themselves. So when it comes to the issue of what God is teaching them, their only hope is to trust in what God has given them, right? And so shall also be with the Levite, with the Nethinims. Their only hope when they get to this dispensation or to this time period, they will wholeheartedly have to rely on what God has actually taught them. You see that? So you see these three groups, and when they come to their harvest, they learn what is taking place here. It's because of what already has transpired, because what was revealed in this dispensation, it was something that has already been built upon. It has already been shown in the past dispensation. The rain has come. It has made the crop to be ripe. It has done its work. The only thing that needs to come is the sickle needs to come and then chop off the plant from the ground. So you would be having this is the you'll have to come and separate the plant from the earth where it's actually holding. So you are having a sickle in this time period will come and then will cut the plant from the earth. And that's how I conceptualize it on when, even as Elder Dish is saying, when you look at how actually these dispensations and how the early rain, the plowing actually works out there, that gives us a neat and nice way to be able to conceptualize actually what is taking place and how to see what is actually required from us. And we can be able to see that when we can be able to apply the agricultural model and be able to see how how as plants, we were supposed to be removed from the earth, and we only had to rely on that which because of the work it's been doing. So it's that time period here. There's no hope in earth. There's no hope on earth, no earthly support. Our only hope is in what God has already done, the message that God has already given us. So we conceptualize the same thing as the Levites and the Nethinims. Their only hope is to trust on what God has already taught them in this dispensation. Remember that they already have seen what has taken place in their latter experience, and they have went through the time period of Donald Trump. Those who have chosen to say Donald Trump is our hero, how are they going to? How are they going? They will continue to see or to view Trump as their hero, even when they get to this dispensation. Even as the media is actually broadcasting and saying, "You see, what kind of a person is Donald Trump?" And him himself, actually, you can be able to see from what he's actually saying, what this person, he is actually, he's actually within the very far ends of how actually, as a liberal person, you would see society to actually run, you see. So yeah, that will be my attempt to answer Letwin's question. That these three dispensations or these three time periods, they are not the same as this one. The escalation of the Sunday law here, cannot be compared with this time period over here. because this is harvest, this is the early rain experience, and these people, they are in the time period of their test for the actual way mark of receiving or rejecting God's kingdom. And here it's different because of yeah, I would answer it that way. Twin, have we left loopholes?
I thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any question?
What do we expect to see in the harvest?
The question is that what we expect to see in the harvest. Delta G?
Mm.
Oh, which harvest are you referring to?
Any harvest, the pattern is the same.
The pattern is the same, okay?
Maybe we can look at 2019 to 2021 in our line to see what the harvest looked like.
So you say we can look at this harvest of 2021 to the Sunday law.
You know, the one of the priests that's just gone before us.
Oh,
The
this
one that
one.
ended.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there's a question then. What should we expect to the in the harvest time period? That's a question that Elder Kish is asking.
What happened? What did it look like?
Yeah. What happened?
Because the so-called rain that the so-called scarcity of rain, in fact, there was rain because we were, as you're saying, we were in the early reign of the 144,000 line. So we need not forget that part, that we were in two lines. So maybe that's where sometimes we get mixed up. But essentially in 2019, you know, the shaking that happened in 2019 was like a kind of an illustration of what happens. You had people coming all the way from 2014 who now arrived in 2019 and stumbled and fell away. Because when you look at the agriculture model, the wheat and the tares have to be separated, but the tares are recognized way before. And you remember that the servants see these things and they come and tell the master, and the master tells them that they shouldn't try to pull out the weeds. I mean, the tares, they should just leave them alone until the time of the harvest. So in the harvest, you will have a separation. And it's definitely not that there is rain falling, but there is a separation of the wheat from the tares. And as you said previously, the wheat is separated from the earth. Its earthly support is cut off. So those are the things that happen in the harvest. So I thought that if we look at the pre-dispensation of the harvest, maybe it might help us to have a view of how the other harvest will look like. Anyway, just adding to the discussion, doesn't have to be answered.
Okay, so Rasedi, Nombo, Sfiso, Shamiso, did you hear what Elder G said, right? Corpus, Did we get the question? Am I still audible?
Yeah. You know what I suggest, Tato? People become very quiet sometimes. That in the future we use our videos, turn on the videos and have the gallery view, switch to gallery view, so we can interact better. I think audio only keeps us anonymous, kind of, and the interaction is not as good.
Okay. No, that's true. So I remember, I would speak about myself. I remember, and even as I was looking at these lessons, that when you get to this time period, the world view that we were still having. Let me put it in this way. When you look at Christ and the wilderness experience where he's actually been tempted by Satan, is that his response was actually as Satan would be coming and saying, thus saith the Lord, thou shalt cast thyself down, and God will send his angels and catch you. Christ will respond in a correct way, also using what the scripture is actually saying. Like he would answer the tempter in the same with like with the same Bible, but not taking it literally as did Satan. Like we used to take it in this dispensation. I remember we were looking at things in a literal way. And one of the things that we were looking in a literal way, it's how the harvest was going to look like. That's number one. So when you look at how we used to take things, we used to take things literally. And we thought that things were going to unfold in a literal way as we read them from the scriptures, right? And the applications that were made, we thought that those applications were going to be fulfilled in a literal way. Like when we speak about the war between the United States and Russia, we were thinking that within a literal sense that we are going to have a literal bombing in the Russian soil by the United States, or the United States is going, the Russia is going to bomb the United States. So we're taking things literally. Even when the study of the Levites is being pointed out and it's been highlighted, immediately when Elder Pamenda was sharing them that lesson, I went back to that to search my memory. This is how we used to think. This is how exactly we would expect things to be fulfilled. We would read something literally, that there was a major work that was done by the disciples, and they went back to the church and they began to do a great work of evangelism. And we saw that, and I saw that, and then before I would, that was my expectation. But immediately once that study was corrected, it clicked. Yeah, exactly. Because of when we do this, when we think like this, we are actually applying things in a literal way. We would be taking scriptures in a literal way. When we think about the Levites coming in, being evangelized by us and doing that great work, that's actually going back to the same mindset that we used to have of just looking at things in a literal way and expecting that they are going to unfold in a literal way. So that lesson did not give so much a heartburn, because of when you look at how and where we came from our thinking to where God actually was removing us to be in. He wanted us to think God wanted us to think in a certain way, not in a way that which we were thinking of literal to literal interpretation, but to think in a literal to spiritual way. So that's one of the things that I remember that I would do. I used to think in this time period, things we take things in a literal way, and it's only after some time then things begin to click that we should not take things literally. We need to we need to read correctly, and those lessons were very much on point, because of we needed to understand how to actually read, but besides that we could not read in a correct way. So even when you look at Satan trying to tempt Christ, you would just use "that saith the Lord," "that saith the Lord," and taking things in a literal way, and then expect Christ to do it in that sense. So yeah, that's how I used to do it, and then I got to come to this understanding of how God actually was moving us from that thinking. Anybody? Hello? Does anybody want to add on the question that Elder T asked? Okay. If there's no questions, Elder T?
Thato Mokoto had his hand up.
Hello?
I was saying that Thato Mokoto had his hand up, I think.
Oh, Thato Mokoto, please, you can say something. Okay, so others. Okay, so Thato says his audio is not working, so you won't be able to ask the question or to give the impendulo yakhe. But if there's no questions, yeah, the purpose probably of today's lesson was just to have that Q&A, but yeah, one thing that we need to work on, I think it's to participation. The way Latrine, the way Thato, the way Doreen give their responses. They don't say something, they don't say the same thing. I want to say it in this way. The way they answer, it benefits each and every one of us. It does not matter how you actually respond, but then we get to be all benefited by everybody's contribution. Even the questions are there to build us up. So we really need to work on this issue of participation and questions and all that. So that we can all be able to be benefited, you see. And thank you so much from T. Thank you so much, Tim, for and then Thato was saying, though I wanted to say the major thing and then we went through since our line began from 1989, and we got to learn more during the period of the harvest. Thank you, everybody. I hope that we can review more of this of the lines and be able to see where we are, because currently we are not. There's a gap. There's so much gap. We need to come to the dispensation that we are in and be able to see how to even view things and look at the things that are happening externally and be able to see what is currently happening and be able to decide. I'm fearful that actually some actually in a condition that it's very dire, and we need not to be satisfied of I know this much only, and we don't seek to understand more. We need to constantly study, and that's the only way we can be able to come to view even the things that are happening externally in a correct way, because there are so many things that are actually happening, and we need to work together. So a lot that we can say and we need to share, but yeah, without time, we'll just hold it here and we'll give over to Letwin. Letwin, can you please close in prayer for us?
Let's pray. Dear God in heaven, thank you, Lord, for bringing us together as a people to review our past history and our experience. Lord, we pray that all this may anchor us in our faith and actually see how you have led us and strengthen our faith, knowing that as you have done in the past, you shall do so in the next coming dispensations. Thank you, Lord, for bringing clarity on some of the concepts, Lord, that we're struggling with. May you bless us throughout this day, and may the Sabbath be a blessing indeed in our lives. Be with each and every one of us, guide us and help us, Lord, when we are struggling. We ask and pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much, brethren.